the earlier lecture on the board, we tried to derive the Thomas algorithm for tridiagonal matrix. It is also known as TDMA, the tridiagonal matrix algorithm. The idea is that we have a system Tx equal to S, where matrix T is the coefficient matrix, and this is a tridiagonal structure. On the main, along the main diagonal you have coefficients Ai, and the superdiagonal you have Bi, supradiagonal below this you have Ci here, and all the other coefficients are 0. So that if you take any equation, any row here, and then multiply by x to give you this, you have an equation like Cixi minus 1 plus Aixi plus Bixi plus 1 equal to Si. So this is the equation that we get from, for example, the one dimensional Laplace equation or a Poisson equation discretized using central differences. We get an equation of this particular form, and what we do in the TDMA is to convert this tridiagonal matrix into an upper diagonal matrix, upper bidiagonal matrix, in which you have only two non-zero diagonals and all the others are 0, and out of this non-zero diagonals the main diagonal is taken to have values of 1. Every element on this has a value of 1, and only Di are non-zero, and these are yet to be determined. So the transformation of Tx equal to S to Ux equal to Y enables us to have an equation involving a coefficient matrix like this, which can be done through successive substitution, and it is also a specialized substitution in which if you take any equation here, it is of the form xi plus dixi plus 1 equal to yi. So there are only two variables. So the idea would be that you start here, you get xn, and from this you go to the next row here, you have xn and xn minus 1. You already know xn, so you get this, and then you go to the next row which involves xn minus 1 and xn minus 2, out of which you know xn minus 1, so you can get xn minus 2, and so on. So the back substitution always is an equation involving only two variables. So the number of arithmetic operations needed to get the solution from Ux equal to Y is very limited. It is one multiplication and essentially one multiplication and subtraction. Okay. So you know xi plus 1, so multiply that by di, and then y minus di times xi plus 1 will give you xi. So the evaluation of the solution after it is converted to Ux equal to Y is pretty straightforward. Now we have also derived steps by which we can obtain the values of di and yi from known Tx equal to S. So that is known values of Ai, Bi, Ci and Si, and these are, to begin with, we evaluate d1 equal to b1 by a1 and y1 equal to s1 by a1, and from then onwards we put di plus 1 equal to bi plus 1 divided by ai plus 1 minus ci plus 1 di, and if you look at this, for I equal to 1 you get d2 is equal to b1 b2, which is known, divided by a2 plus c2 times d1, where d1 is already evaluated here. Similarly yi plus 1, which is coming on the right hand side of this transformed equation, is si plus 1, all the coefficients are known here, minus ci plus 1, which is also known, yi you have just calculated, and then you have this which is all known. So again, from known values of y1, which is s1 by a1 and d1, you can calculate d2 here and y2 here, and then move on to d3 y3, d4 y4, all the way up to dn yn. So in this way we can evaluate all di yi, and then you go through the bidiagonal system solution by back substitution, xn equal to yn and xi equal to yi minus di times xi plus 1. So evaluation of this involves one multiplication per variable, and here you have more multiplications you have to multiply this by this and then add this and then divide here. So, you have one multiplication, one division, again one multiplication, second multiplication is already done in a way. So, and then division here. So, in that way you can compute the number of arithmetic operations which are required for this, and this will be proportional to the number of unknowns. It is not something that goes as n square or n cubed, it is proportional to the number of unknowns. So, that even if you have very large system of equations, you can solve it very efficiently. So, this algorithm known as tridiagonal matrix algorithm or TDMA or Thomas algorithm is a very efficient way of solving Tx equal to S, much more efficient than either Gaussian elimination or LU decomposition. In fact, one could call this as a special form of Gaussian elimination, but the catch is that this is applicable only when you have 3 adjacent rows, and that too where diagonal dominance is guaranteed. And this happens only in 1D flows. If you have 2D and 3D, then you do not have 3-point molecule, you have 5-point molecule or 7-point molecule or 19-point molecule. So, in such cases this cannot be applied, but there are extensions of this method in more advanced methods for the solution of Tx equal to or Ax equal to b, which we will see in the second part of this module. So far we have seen in detail 4 methods including the Cramer's rule, but the 3 realistic methods that can be used for a CFD type of solution is the Gaussian elimination method, LU decomposition method, and the tridiagonal matrix algorithm. These have their applicability, but let us look at a couple of other basic methods which belong to the second category, which is the iterative solution method, not direct solution methods. In iterative methods, we do not solve Ax equal to b. We solve a different form of the equation. For example, we solve repeatedly the equation Qxk equal to q minus a times kx minus 1 plus b, and approach the solution asymptotically. Okay. So, that means that instead of solving this equation, we solve this equation here. What is the difference between this and this? This looks even more complicated than this, but the q here is in is such that it's this equation becomes very easy to solve, and you can see that when the solution is converged, so that is when xk is almost equal to xk minus 1 or when it is equal to xk minus 1, then qxk equal to qxk minus 1 minus axk minus 1 plus b. So, qxk minus 1 and qxk will cancel out, and this minus comes here, you get back this equation. So, even though you are solving this equation which looks different from this equation, the converged solution is the same as this equation. Okay. So, in that sense we are going on a different way of solving this equation, on an indirect way of solving this equation, and that too we are solving this equation iteratively many times, and despite this apparently roundabout way of doing this, this actually turns out to be more efficient than Gaussian elimination method or LU decomposition method for a class of problems, and this is very widely used for a number of reasons in CFD type of calculations. And we have already seen one such iterative method, the Gauss-Seidel method, in the very first module, and very first part of it. For the solution of flow through rectangular duct, we made use of Gauss-Seidel method, and that belongs to the class of iterative solution methods. If the iterative solution method is convergent, then the initial guess can be entirely arbitrary. You can take any set of values for the initial guess, and then you are guaranteed a converged solution finally. Okay. For the method to work efficiently, the solution of the iteration scheme should be simple, okay, and whether or not the scheme converges, and if it does converge, at what rate it converges depends on the matrix Q inverse of Q minus A. Okay, we will see these things later on. It is very possible that you have done the two basic iterative methods which are known as the Jacobi iteration scheme and the Gauss-Seidel iterative method. In seeking an iterative solution like this, obviously we want this to be convergent. Okay, that is the first condition that this method should satisfy for it to work, and secondly it should be easy to solve because we are solving it many times, and thirdly it should converge fast. Even though it is easy to solve, if it takes a huge number of iterations to converge, then the overall computational time becomes very large. And finally, finding Q, okay, it should not be expensive from a computational point of view. Just like when you look at LU decomposition method, once you resolve A into the product of L and U, then the solution is pretty easy, but the decomposition of A into L and U itself is computationally expensive. So in that sense, although the solution of LU equal to B is easy, converting A into LU plus A into LU is so expensive that the overall scheme is more expensive or more computationally intensive than the Gaussian elimination method. So in the same way here, even if the solution of this is easy and even if it converges fast, if the decomposition of, if finding Q, which is not there in the original equation, okay, if finding Q, if we can find such a Q that it makes the solution converge and converge fast, okay, but if the process of finding Q itself is time consuming, then the overall solution method is not good. So for an iterative solution method to be expensive, to be effective from a computational point of view, finding Q should be easy, solving this equation, and how many such equations? There are n such equations where n is the number of variables. Solving this n times should be easy, and solving the set of these n equations iteratively, the number of iteration steps should also be small, or the rate of convergence should be fast. So if we have all these things, then we can have an effective way of computing Ax equal to B. Even though it is going to approach the solution asymptotically, we still have an effective method, and that can be used. Okay. So what we are going to see is the two basic methods, the Jacobi iteration method and the Gauss-Seidel method, and we see how in these two basic methods this idea of solving Ax equal to B in an iterative way by finding a Q which makes this iteration scheme convergent and all that works out. Okay. So in the Jacobi method, we take Q to be the diagonal of A. Okay. So what we mean by that is that, let us say that this is the matrix, then we take Q to be equal to all this Ai, and all the other elements of Q are 0. Okay. So Q is a matrix and it has as many elements as A, but out of that only the diagonal elements are non-zero and all the other elements are 0, and not only that, all the diagonal elements of Q are equal to the diagonal elements of A. So in that sense, there is nothing much is needed to find Q. It is just to select the diagonal elements of A and put them into matrix Q. Okay. So in that sense, the first idea that it should be easy to compute Q, or it is easy to put together or construct Q, is a condition which is satisfied in the Jacobi iteration method. And we can show that the Jacobi iteration scheme, when constructed this way, so that is taking Q to be the diagonal elements and all the rest. Okay. That solution method using this particular recursive formula is convergent when we have the weak form of diagonal dominance or the strong form of diagonal dominance is satisfied, then we know that the Jacobian iteration method will work. Okay. So, if that is there, then we have a convergent scheme and we can make it work. So, exactly how it works is something that we can see for a scheme like this. So, we are saying that xk is equal to q inverse of q minus a times xk minus 1 plus b, or I, where I is the identity matrix, minus q inverse of a times xk minus 1 plus q inverse of b, and you can also put this as mxk minus 1 plus n, where m is this whole thing and n is q inverse b. Okay. Although it is written like this, in actual case we do not really find the q inverse and then find all these things. We will see how it will be done. Okay. So, if for example A is given by these three things, 2 minus 1 0 minus 1 3 minus 1 0 minus 1 2, and x is x1 x2 x3 and b is 1 8 5 minus 5, then q is the 3 diagonal elements. So, that is 2 3 2 and all others are 0, and now you can take q inverse and multiply by I and subtract from the identity matrix, and then you can show that m is given by this 1 by 2 1 by 3 1 by 3 1 by 2 and n is this. So, now you know m here and n here. You can start with some initial guess, for example 0 0 0 for the 3 variables, and then substitute that here and then get xk, that is x1, and then you put the x1 back here and then get x2, and then put it back here, get x3, and so that is what you have. So, x0, where the superscript indicates the initial guess, so is 0 0 0 for the 3 elements, x1 is 0.5 2.667 minus 2.5. You can substitute these things here and then you can get x1 x2 x3 like that, and x21 gives us 2.000 3.000 and minus 1.00, and you can see that this is a solution. For example 2 times 2 is 4 minus 3 and that is equal to 1, and minus 2 plus 9 minus of minus 1, so that is plus 8, and you can also this is minus 3 minus 2, so that is minus 5. So, it is a solution to this equation, and we have got it in this particular way. Okay. So, by doing a solution iteratively, we have gotten here. The Gauss-Seidel method, which we have seen earlier as a formula, is also written in the same way, xk equal to q inverse of q minus a times xk minus 1 plus b. So, it is exactly the same generic formula, but the choice of q is different. For the same set of equations here, the same equations, now q is taken as all the elements which are on this main diagonal and below that. So, that is this one 2 3 2 minus 1, and all this upper diagonal elements are 0, and then this is 0 because this is 0 here, and we can substitute in this and we can get m and n to be like this. So, we can start with the same initial guess and then we can compute successive values of xk using mxk minus 1 plus n, and so you start with this and then you get this and then you get this, and in this particular case we find a solution in only 9 iterations. Okay. So, this is in a way the characteristic way in which we can do this. We will do further in the next lecture, but I would like to recap on the basic iterative methods. In the iterative methods, we solve Ax equal to b in a quirky way, in a strange way, in what seems to be much more difficult and roundabout way. Okay, by instead of solving Ax equal to b, we solve it as qxk plus q minus a times xk minus 1 plus b, and q is taken from a in a certain way and in such a certain way that when you go through this particular recursive step, you can generate a series of improved guesses of the actual solution. And if you generate sufficiently large number of these, then it is expected to go towards the final solution. So that nature by which improved solution leads eventually to the final solution is known as a convergent scheme. Okay, so if you have a convergent scheme, then you can start with some arbitrary initial guesses for these, and you can march it forward in a sequential way and get to the final solution. So that will make it attractive, and although we are doing all this inverses and all that, we will see that when we are actually solving a large number of equations, we do not have to construct the inverse. We can have an explicit way of calculating successive values of xk from xk minus 1. And not only that, we have a fairly simple robust rule for checking whether for a given a x equal to b, whether the Gauss-Seidel method or Jacobi method will work, okay, in the sense that whether or not they lead to a convergent solution. Okay, so because of these two facts, which is that instead of solving a matrix equation, we can solve readily some simple substitution type of equations in a sequential way, makes this method very attractive, these iterative methods very attractive. The second thing about them is that you do not have to worry about the initial guess and how you start and all that. You can start from anything and then you will eventually get a solution. And the third is that at any point you have an estimate of the solution, and so that means that you may have an estimate of the solution after 10th iteration. It may be accurate only the second decimal place, and if you want more accurate solution, then you can go for some more number of iterations and you can get a more accurate solution. So you can improve the accuracy of the solution of Ax equal to b by taking more and more step towards the final solution. And why is this important? We have seen that when we are solving Navier-Stokes equations, we have lot of nonlinear terms and coupled terms coming from other equations, and at the time of solving, for example, AU star equal to b in the discretized x momentum equation, the u star is a provisional variable at all the grid points. It is provisional because in evaluating this AU star equal to b, we are making guesses of what is p and what is v in a case of 2 dimensions. So that means that this AU star equal to b is not going to be the final solution. Only when we have a good value of p and a good value of v is this going to be correct. So we make use of the iterative method to solve AU star equal to b for some number of iterations, we get an improved guess, and then we move on to solving A prime v star equal to b, we get a v velocity field, and for after a certain number of iterations we go and solve the pressure correction equation, and then we come back and then we do this. So in a scheme of solution method where we are solving Ax equal to b many times, but each time using approximate variables, having this possibility of getting an approximate solution makes it worthwhile to pursue this method. Okay. So if you are using a direct method guarantees you the exact solution of AU star equal to b after so many number of arithmetic operations, but we do not really need the exact solution right in the beginning, because AU star equal to b is made approximately by assumed values of V star and P star. Okay. So, that is why it is in such cases we do not need to solve A u star equal to B exactly. It is sufficient if we have a good solution for that, not the exact solution. So, in that sense these iterative methods are useful in the context of solving coupled nonlinear equations, and so that is one of the advantages. In the next class we are going to work this out for some practice problems, so that we know exactly how to construct Q and how to solve this equation Qxk equal to Q minus x k minus 1 plus b, and we will also devise a method by which we can test whether this method is going to work, and we are also going to devise a method by which we can stop this iterative scheme exactly after how many times do I have to iterate. This is something that we can monitor the rate of convergence, we can monitor the rate of goodness using certain measures, and we discuss those methods so that we have a complete grip on these basic iterative methods. In the next module, in the second part of this module, we will look at more advanced methods which work faster than these Gauss-Seidel and Jacobi methods, and the faster we get to the solution the better it is, and therefore they are superior methods, but we understand right now the basic methods and basic direct methods and iterative methods, and finally we will go into the more advanced methods.